My name's Alejandra. I'm currently a third-year college student, and I'm double majoring in education and psychology. I'm a first-generation college student. My parents are from Mexico, specifically the state of Jalisco, and they both immigrated here to the United States when they were 19 and in their very early 20s. I definitely remember the first time I even had thoughts of any like suicidal ideations or questioning really what my life's purpose was when I was around 10 or 11 years old. And I remember going to my mom and asking her because I was just so overwhelmed with the emotions and the thoughts, right? Like you don't really know what to do, especially at that age. So I asked her, and she told me that the purpose of living or of life was to serve God and to spread the gospel. So that was very disappointing. And I just wasn't content with the answer. So that really hurt. And I just thought, I was like, that's it. Like there has to be more because I personally didn't like that. And for my mom, that was such a normal response because she raised my siblings and I in a very conservative religion. And that was practically our whole lifestyle, our whole life. I was born into this particular religion, and it's more, I refer to it more of a cult just because it really does control the way that you live. You know, it really dictated a lot of the things that my siblings and I were allowed to do when we were growing up, what we were allowed to see or listen to, read, friends we could have, people we could talk to, places we could go. It really dictated every aspect of our life. So that was a big aspect of me trying to cope. I think I put 100% of my efforts into one, trying to be a normal girl, growing up as a first generation student in Orange County and, all of these problems at home at the same time trying to navigate a life with this religion. And that was really tough because they didn't have any mental health resources. And a lot of the stuff was just very hush hush, especially coming from a Hispanic family. A lot of those subjects are taboo. So if you can imagine like the attack from, the religion where it's like, well, just read the Bible and be quiet and just pray to God. And that's all the therapy you should have. And then I have, the cultural side where they don't even acknowledge it. And then it's like my side where I'm just confused and I'm lost the whole time. 10 and 11 was the ages when I can remember the first incidences of that occurring. And in hindsight, looking back, it's because at that age, I was also experiencing abuse from a family member. But I just kind of would push that to the back of my head because I didn't know what to do. And I felt like there were so many other issues. I didn't even know how to tackle that, how to approach it. So for pretty much all of my adolescence, I was in and out of therapy. And that was really hard because I remember being right before sixth grade started, asking my mom to take me to a therapist because I was desperate. I wanted help. And I thought that was a way to do it. There was a way for her to bring me to one. And that really helped. I was like, okay, this is great. The only problem was that it was very inconsistent. And if there wasn't a problem with the insurance, there was a problem with like an address or like a law that changed or just something super stupid that for me it was gold to have 45 minutes or 60 minutes in therapy. And it was really hard as I kept growing up, and each appointment is like 3 months apart, or oh, this therapist, it does not listen to me, or this person just wants to get rid of me and they don't care. It really felt like they just read my file beforehand and didn't care about anything that I had to say. So it felt like I was running out of resources. I was like, okay, I tried religion. I tried, even just me growing up, I was in sports all the time. I tried to take care of myself. I was very responsible. I was a good student. So I was trying to fulfill my life, but I just felt empty the whole time up until I was, the first time that I had my suicide attempt. I remember my mom being supportive of it because she really is a very wonderful mother, and she wants the best for my siblings and I. But since mental health wasn't a topic that she was ever introduced to or really knew how to approach it, it didn't translate to me. So she would take me to therapy and she would agree with a lot of the things that, were good for me, but there was never anything where she was 100% supportive because one, she didn't really know how to, and two, there was kind of like that religious, I want to say like a wall, because it's like, okay, you can have help, but not too much. not too much secular help or not too much, medicine or anything that's not of the church. So that was really, it just wasn't supportive. And at the same time, my family was really, we were going through a lot. My parents were getting divorced while I was in high school. My siblings were, they were having their own stuff, trying to grow up in a similar situation as me, trying to navigate our parental situation and financial situations and whatnot. So that was always very difficult. And in a sense, it just felt for me like I was just grasping at straws the whole time. School has always been a very good escape for me, in the sense that I really was, since I was young, I always loved reading, loved school. I like structure. So that always really helped me out too. And in high school, I went to, thankfully I went to a high school that was very focused on academics. So everything was just, and how much can you do, or how much can you perform, or, demonstrate. And I really liked that. So I was in sports, I was in clubs, I had my friends. I was very, very happy. In high school, I felt like I was excelling, and it got to that point where I had gotten all my college applications in, and I was ready to receive the acceptances and move forward, like have a change in my life. Now, things are going to be better. I thought that things were looking forward, and then COVID happened. That was the unexpected part right there, and that really was just like, soul crushing. I was so used to being out of the house, and I was so used to my routine that I had crafted. Like, okay, I have school, and then I'm going to have my sport. I'll go to work afterwards. I'll have, spend time with my friends, because I didn't want to be at home. I didn't want to face the problems that I had at home. So once I just was stuck there and I had nowhere else to go, they were just in my face, all these problems that I had been placing aside, and the whole world was uncertain with what was going to happen. So that was I can't even remember, to be honest, like what adjective to use to describe what a horrible time that was. But I mean, I still tried, I still tried through therapy, through my school as well. Wasn't very helpful. And then around that time, my general physician, he prescribed antidepressants to me. So that also, I discovered what a hard process that is, and just how much support you really do need when you're going through it. Because, there's the time, it's like, okay, 4 to 6 weeks or 6 to 8 weeks or whatever amount of time you adjust to the medication. But there's also these potential side effects, and there's not much you can do about it. So it's like you sacrifice some aspects of your life in order to potentially feel better. Because for me, it was the hope of feeling better. That was what was so attractive to me. And that's why I said yes. So we went through quite, different, I guess, cocktails of medication, you could call it, because it wasn't just one or two. And they're just really trying to figure out what's going on. And it was hard because at the time it's inconsistent therapy on medication. So you can't really check in the way that you need to about dosing or side effects or whatever else that happens. And I will say that I was very thankful with medication. I got rid of crying spells, and my panic attacks were less frequent, and some side effects really were diminishing. So I was really happy about that. But it was just still an overall like numbing sensation, because I had so many things going on in my life. It was kind of just putting a Band-Aid over a bullet wound. The medication was okay, but when I was 19, it's been a little bit over 2 years, I had my first major suicide attempt. And that was when I tried everything to potentially stop my life. And I was very close. I was rushed to the hospital just in time. So that's, that was a very important day, a very life-changing day. And, a lot of emotions came up, a lot of issues within the family that we hadn't faced were there, and that's that it's where the scars come in. So that's what that is from, that day in particular. And then 2 months later or 3 months later, I had a second attempt, and it was similar. So that was pretty horrible. I honestly don't really know, because I don't think there's one or two sole reasons why. I think it was just spontaneous in a way. And it's only been 2 years, so I don't know if I'll ever receive an answer or have some sort of like moment of enlightenment where I'll know why I did it. Because to be honest, I don't think that didn't feel like me. It doesn't feel like something that I would do. The first suicide attempt I had, I was immediately 5150'd. So it's that automatic 72-hour hold. And then after that, I was in a health facility for almost 2 weeks. And then for the second attempt, I was in a mental health facility for 9 days, and they were trying to get me to sign a paper to extend my stay for 30 days. But it was nine minutes in that place was enough, like it was horrible. It is not an experience that's conducive to bettering your mental health. And it's just one of those situations where you have no control. So it was very scary, and especially because you're not fully there. I wasn't fully there, so that was very difficult in that sense because I'm just navigating things alone, and you feel like you don't really have people to listen to you. Yeah, so it was just like a lack of people's empathy, even as healthcare workers or just people in general. I spent a lot of time after my attempts consoling my family members or consoling friends that felt guilty about not being there for me. But it's like, well, I'm trying to figure this out. So what I needed most was time and space to figure that out. There's a lot of overcrowding. You really do feel like you're just a bed, or you're a body, to fill a bed. So you do feel like the frustration, and people, they want you to take your meds. They need you to eat, participate in some activity, and then stay out of trouble, so you just feel like a cog in the machine, like there really is no purpose there. So it sucks because I met a lot of people that had very difficult situations, people with families, parents, friends. During visitation, like my brother would come, and it's so sad because you have, 45 minutes to talk to people you love, and then you're put back inside. So that was really hard, and going through that, especially as you're 19, you don't know much, it's like a lot of your innocence is stripped away because you're just put into these situations that, all you're asking for is help. And a lot of the times you're treated like it's a bad thing to ask for help. One of the only good things that came out of being hospitalized, especially at a county level, is the condition for my release. I appealed because they wanted to extend my stay, and I said no. I wanted to fight it. I was going to appeal. So there was a whole Zoom situation with the judge and whatnot, and a lawyer. And I explained it. I was like any sane person would not be able to get well in these situations. Foods, you can't eat it. It's not edible. There's no safety. I wasn't sleeping because I was so scared all the time. There's just so many people. Facilities aren't clean. It's just, you can't live like that. You can't get better like that. If anything, you're deteriorating. And you're there without knowing how long or how people are going to treat you. There's no way for you to advocate for yourself, and that's very scary. So I said no, that I didn't want to stay there, and the judge agreed. And a condition of my release was what he called intensive therapy. So he said I would have an appointment with my psychiatrist weekly, and then I would have 2 separate therapists and have appointments with them weekly as well. And that was finally what I needed, but it sucked that I had to get to the point of, literally being 5150 twice within the same 3-month period for someone to be like, oh, you know what, we're going to give you something to help you out. And that really did help. I had wonderful therapists. And it sucks because at the same time, it's like, I didn't know that resource was available. And yes, I always knew therapy was there, but you can't just go and sign up for it. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then even clicking with the therapist is hard. That was the only time when I had a therapist that was also Latina, that was also bisexual, that also struggled a lot, and knew what it was like to be in my situations, or had a similar inkling of what that was like. And that was so refreshing. But now it's like, well, they had to help me deal with the aftermath of this. So it's this plus 19 years of whatever else I had been dealing with, of leaving the religion. 19 years of that, of having to reintegrate into society. So that was a journey in itself. And I'm very thankful that I got that help. But, at what cost? Therapy was very beneficial. I'm very much someone that has to talk through her situations or whatever issue I'm going through. So that was very nice. And I learned a lot of coping mechanisms, a lot of ways to really kind of build the life that I want with the resources that I have. And it's like, okay, even if I am in a situation where I don't feel good, how can I control my surrounding or, my locus of control? And so that's very helpful now. I consider it a success. It's been 2 years since I've acted on any, suicidal ideation or had a negative coping mechanism to the point where I end up back in the hospital. So I think that for me, I consider that a success and an achievement. And I think it's proof that these resources really do help. And there's so much science and there's so much research being done about how it can help, especially people, minority groups that there wasn't much research about before. There is now. So I just think it's exposure to that. And I'm glad that in a way I'm exposure to other people, even just the way that I look now, a lot of people will approach and ask me, or they have some sort of, stare that they have with my arms or my appearance. And it's a question that comes up. I'm not shy about it at all. I think it's part of who I am, and it makes up a lot of my identity now. I've tried to die twice and it hasn't happened. So there has to be, a little something. Maybe I will never fully know what the purpose of my life is, or if I have some big old, meaningful purpose, but I'm happy. The way that my mom's upbringing with us was very active. Exercise, very important to us. Being outside, as little time away as we can from the screens, and trying to be outside a lot. That was very helpful. I also really liked art classes. Art therapy worked wonders for me. That was great. Journaling. Those are really things that are super important. And then also knowing more, it seems like mundane things, but they're really important. How to set boundaries, even just relationships with my family or with friends. It's so important to develop those skills and be able to be content with just myself. Being able to be happy that I have 10 minutes to myself, so I think that's a long way from where I was even 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I think 2 big things that I learned from my experiences. The first one is the world goes round. I used to be very much a person that would place a lot of importance on things and assignments and dates, a due date, something like that. I thought it was going to be the end of the world if I wasn't going to turn something in on time, or I wasn't going to show up on time, but it's really not. And sometimes you just need to take time to decompress and to forget about your responsibilities for a little bit, just take a couple days to slow down and prevent that burnout, because I'm very much like a go, 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 go type of person, because that's my way of deflecting. I didn't want to focus on problems at home. What kid wants to think about their parents' divorce or the kind of cult that you're in and how you're going to get out and how you're unhappy? So I think that a big thing here is to know that the world goes round, and things that seem really, really scary or impossible, they're not at the end of the day. It's possible to survive and to go through it and to learn a lot while you're going through it. Being open-minded to other people, because I think a big thing within the community is the right to judge. A lot of people feel the right to judge because they think that solutions are black and white, that problems only have A, B, and C, or A possible, but it's not really like that. And I think that I grew up very much with a family and with a community that was very didactic. So that hurts because we're not black and white. We're very different people, and some things will work on one person and they won't work on the other. So I think just, parents or mentors, or if you have anyone around you that's going through a mental health issue, it's just trying to be understanding at an empathetic level and not sympathetic. So it's not just, oh, poor person, I hope whatever they're going through resolves, and, actually try to get involved, because it really does take a lot to ask for help. or sometimes you don't know how to do it the appropriate way. And knowing that there are people that will back you up, or people that really do love you, it is a very big help. Yeah, I have 2 more semesters and then I'm graduating. So right now I'm looking at different master's programs or grad schools that I could go to. I do think that the conversation is just starting. I think that there's a lot of areas of mental health that haven't been fully addressed. I think everyone just needs like a nice, clear understanding of what it really is in the first place. So I think that there definitely has to be that type of education in schools. There has to be community access. Hopefully there's, these really are systemic issues, because I really would have wished to have had a Latina counselor, Latina therapist when I was much younger. And I think that we're slowly getting to that point where hopefully younger generations will have the option of relating to someone that's similar to their background, or someone that they feel really does understand. Just a big thing that I learned is the healing process is a lot more painful than my attempts ever were. But I truly do believe I'm a completely changed person now, and I wouldn't take it back. Even though it happened 2 separate occasions, and even though both occasions were horrendous, wouldn't recommend it to anyone else, I wouldn't change it, because I think that it's truly shaped me and my perspective. And it's made me realize that life truly is not fair at times, but that's okay. And there's no rush to get anywhere for me, and I'll figure it out. That's the biggest thing that I learned. I'll figure it out, and it's okay. That was the biggest thing.